Wonderful. We are live. Hello, everyone. My name is Emma. I'm going to be your alternative healthcare career coach, and I'm here with Sarah Duford, and she's going to help walk us through her own battle with fatigue. I know a lot of people out here are feeling burnt out, feeling frustrated at work, and just feeling fatigued every single day. And Sarah's battled that with her own experience in healthcare. And so she's going to talk about her journey and also give you some tips if you're feeling a little bit fatigued, exhausted, burnt out. Hopefully this webinar helps you a little bit. So thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Emma. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Duford. I'm a chronic fatigue coach and a doctor of physical therapy. And I'm super excited to be here with you today to talk about my 3 biggest tips for a quick energy boost for people who are dealing with chronic fatigue. I know that fatigue and disability from chronic fatigue or health issues that come after that kind of built up are a huge issue with healthcare professionals. And I wanted to speak to this group because I know that drives a lot of people in healthcare to look for different careers that aren't the traditional, like in person, direct patient care type careers. So, a lot of my clients tell me that they feel so exhausted just like being up on their feet that when they up in the morning, they don't even know how they're going to make it through the day because they feel so tired the instant they open their eyes. They just can't imagine making it through the workday anymore. And when I had chronic fatigue, when I was diagnosed with POTS, I felt that exact same way. So today, what I'd love to share with you first is my own personal story with POTS, but also know that POTS is just one of the many issues that can end up causing chronic fatigue. And so essentially, the treatment and the strategies that you can use for chronic fatigue are very similar regardless of the cause. So know that my story is particular to me, but these same principles are completely applicable generally across the board. So, what I do know is that when people are dealing with chronic fatigue, if it ends up becoming something where it results in a health issue or you're seeking medical care for it, a lot of times in our current medical system, people go to their doctor or whoever they go to for primary care and they're told like just rest, sleep more, eat healthy, exercise. Maybe they're given a handout on like burnout or chronic fatigue or some strategies. But beyond that, they leave just feeling kind of lost and confused and frustrated because they're like given a slip of paper and some really basic instructions, but no way to really implement it. So that's why I help people with the actual implementation piece of it to make sure that you can overcome your chronic fatigue and really use strategies that work for you instead of being given a handout that's like, here, do these basic things. We know that that doesn't really work well, right? So if that sounds like you, go ahead and drop a me in the comments because I'd love to hear if other people are having that same experience. So I'm not able to see all the Facebook comments. Emma will update me as they come in. And even if you're watching the replay, go ahead and comment as well. So if you did say me or that sounds like you, just know that you're in the right place. I love to help people with fatigue reclaim their freedom to be spontaneous again so that you know that you have enough energy to make it through the workday and go out with your friends on the weekends or work nights and have energy to keep working. I have so much goodness to share with you, and I'll probably talk for about 45 minutes. But I want you to know that what I'm teaching has a lot of layers to it. And so I'm just going to teach the very tip of the iceberg today. If you're interested in hearing more information, then I'd love to invite you to stick around to the end, and I'll share with you how we can connect, and we can dive a little bit deeper into your own particular situation. So make sure that you watch until the end if you're interested to hear how we can work together. So my own story with fatigue really started when I was in high school. I would just like a lot of people who work in healthcare and who end up in that career, I was like your average multi-sport athlete, A+ student, loved competitive swimming, cross country, dance, also science fair, like math team, you name it, I did it. And I really wanted to like be the best at everything, get a scholarship to swim in college, and also get academic scholarships as well. And I felt like that was totally within my reach. But the problem was the first time I ever got in the pool to swim one of my biggest races that I'd been looking forward to for so long, things didn't end up going as planned. As I dove into the pool and I started to race, I started feeling like I was moving through mud instead of water, and something just felt really wrong. When I finished the race, I ended up finishing minutes slower than expected, and I was super frustrated with myself. But I thought, okay, I'm going to sleep it off, whatever, bad day. The next morning, I woke up and I felt awful. I felt like I could barely get out of bed. When I tried to stand up, my body just still felt like a ton of bricks. I felt dizzy, my heart was racing, I was lightheaded, and my legs felt like they ended up turning to jello. So, moving forward, I traveled from doctor to doctor trying to figure out what was going on, but I couldn't find any answers from that. And instead of getting help for this fatigue and this like just utter exhaustion, I ended up getting told that I was faking it, that I had anxiety, I was just trying to get out of school, or I was like being a normal teen girl. Days and then weeks and then even months went by, and there was still like no explanation for what was going on. And I was super frustrated because I knew that I needed help and I was determined to find it because it wasn't normal for me. I wasn't trying to get out of anything. And I absolutely loved school and wanted to get back to it, but I felt like my dreams of that full ride scholarship were just slipping through my fingers. So finally, I was able to go see a specialist at the Mayo Clinic, and they gave me some really straightforward recommendations. They told me that I should pretty much just like eat Chinese takeout to increase my salt intake, which is common for POTS, and then chug some Gatorade and walk on the treadmill every day. They told me that I couldn't swim, that didn't like count as exercise, which felt like super silly, and then told me that I just needed to walk on the treadmill instead. So, like the perfect straight A student that I was, I went home and I did every single thing that they told me to do. So I'm curious if that resonates with anybody also, following all the instructions that you're given. So I went home and I took my medicine, I added salt, I chugged the water and Gatorade, and I tried to exercise on the stinking treadmill. But to this day, I still remember heading downstairs to our basement treadmill. And I had daytime TV on, but I had been stuck at home for so long that I had already seen all of the shows. I'm pretty sure I had on like some kind of HGTV show. So I got on the treadmill, even though I hated it. I pressed that start button and I started to walk. But at that point, I felt like I was barely putting one foot in front of the other. I just was plunking along at 1 mile an hour. Even though I was going so slow, I felt like I was going to die. I was just torturing myself. It felt awful. And at that point, I was so frustrated because I hated the treadmill and the things that I really wanted to do, like get back into the pool and swim and dance, I was told didn't count as exercise. So to make things worse, I couldn't but push back all of these different racing thoughts, thinking, well, that's the Mayo Clinic. Like, they should know what's best, but also it didn't feel like walking on the treadmill was the end all be all solution to this like overwhelming fatigue and exhaustion that I was feeling. And I felt like in my heart there had to be a better way to do it. I also really questioned, even though I didn't have medical training at the time, why swimming wouldn't count as exercise for me, because obviously it's a physical activity. And that's really what I love to do. So, like, why can't I do it? And also, I just wanted to be out with my friends. So I knew they were out there having so much fun without me. I wanted to desperately get back to doing that. So as I plunked along, my heart rate was in the 200s, my head was spinning, my legs felt super wobbly underneath me, and I thought like, screw this, I'm done with this. So I hated the treadmill, I hated how I felt, I hated how I couldn't do what I normally wanted to do. So I just hit the stop button and I hopped off the treadmill and I laid down and I just lost it. At that point, while I was crying on the floor, I knew that I couldn't put myself through this anymore and that I had to do something different. There had to be a better way to still have fun, despite all of this awful fatigue I was feeling, and get better instead of just like checking boxes off of my to do list. So, from that point forward, I decided that nobody was going to tell me what did or didn't count as exercise. I was going to be in charge of that. Like, not even my doctors were going to decide what counted for me. I wanted the freedom to do the things that I actually enjoyed doing instead of living my life based off of all of these symptoms that I had and the tasks that I really had to accomplish. So, the way that I initially made it through this was by starting with dance. I really loved swimming, but that felt a little bit out of my reach at that point because of my symptoms. So, I just signed up for a dance class because it was easier. So, made it to the dance class. I started to gain some traction, and that one class quickly turned into two and then three. And I could see myself getting stronger and stronger. And eventually, I felt like I was finally alive again. I was happy to be spending time with my friends. I was able to move my body in a way that felt comfortable again. And I actually was seeing better results and faster results than using the treadmill to manage this fatigue. So eventually, I was able to go from like missing school and having 2 hours of private tutoring a day to attending full time high school. I went from feeling like I was going to die on the treadmill to eventually being able to easily run 3 miles and feel totally fine. I was able to go from thinking I was going to have to like drop out of school or fail to eventually getting my DPT degree. And I also went from wondering if I'd ever have a normal life again to spending free time in my evenings and weekends playing with my son, my dog, and my husband. So, although your story might not look the same as that, I think that we all, if we're experiencing chronic fatigue, like share that underlying experience. And after my POTS journey, as I was going through my medical training, I know and realized it's still important to listen to the experts, but I also really have a deep understanding for the importance of trusting your gut when you're given really regimented and strict rules or kind of generic recommendations about what you're supposed to do and being told to like double down on it, even if it's not working for you. So, what I know is that following like that copy paste generic approach, being told to like exercise, sleep more, reduce your anxiety, it just isn't the way to go. You deserve a unique approach to your fatigue because you're a unique person. You might hate dance. Dance probably isn't the answer for you then. So you, just like everybody, deserve fun and to enjoy your life and to enjoy the process of climbing out of whatever situation that you're in right now. So that is why I started my Fatigue to Freedom program, which is for people who are super determined to take matters into their own hands and speed up their healing process so that they can say yes to last minute plans again and know that they'll have energy to make it through the rest of the week. So I'm not consistently able to see any comments, but I'd love for you, if you're watching it live or watching the replay, I'd love to hear how that resonates with you. Does that sound like something that you've been through before, or have you had any similar experiences? And then after you've plugged that into the comments, I'd also like to hear what kind of things that you'd like to do again. What activities can't you do right now that you'd really love to return to? So I'm looking forward to looking back and checking out the Facebook page to see what you guys post on that one. And no matter what you'd like to get back to, as long as you have a clear vision of that, then I'm sure that you're going to find today's tips really useful and you'll get a lot of information out of them. So, what we're going to go over are my three keys to quickly boosting your energy with fatigue. And those three keys are fun first, less is more, and celebrate your success. So, moving forward with the presentation, I just want you to know that this is intended just for general education purposes. None of this is personalized health advice. So if you do have like a medical condition, please seek your own personal health care advice prior to implementing any changes if you have concerns about your health. And if you'd like more support and there's feels like a good fit to work with me, then I'd be happy to support you through that. And we'll talk about at the end what that can look like. And like I said at the beginning, all of these topics have a lot of layers to them, so I'm going to just teach the tip of the iceberg today. And I'd love to chat with you at the end if you'd like to hear more information and dive into these topics deeper in the future with me one on one. So let's dive straight into it. My first principle is fun first. I know that that sounds really simple, but if you're anything like me and my family and all of my healthcare worker friends, we seem to have this mentality where we need to earn our relaxation time. So, at least for me and my family, this looks like waking up in the morning and immediately having to unload the dishwasher and reload it from the dishes the night before, first thing in the morning, before you can even like have breakfast or make any coffee. It also looks like making sure laundry is folded and put away the second that the dryer dings. Like you are not leaving any laundry baskets out, or you can't do your fun thing. It also can look like meal prepping for the week instead of doing fun things on the weekend, or making sure your bills are paid first and before you allow yourself to go out and hang out with friends. So, when we end up deciding to put these to do list type tasks first, it can give us a brief sense of accomplishment, um, but what it can end up doing is leaving you feeling extra tired because by the time you're done with your to do list, you might be out of energy to actually go and do the fun thing. So, does that sound like any of you? Go ahead and type me in the comments if that sounds like something that happens to you. So, what I frequently see is everybody has a certain amount of energy during the day. So when you dedicate it to all of these tasks that you feel like you have to do, then you don't have energy for the fun stuff that really helps recharge you. So, to really drive home this point, I'd love you to take a second to think about what kind of things that you put first right now. And then think about what fun thing you could do first instead. So once you figured out how you can reverse engineer your day a little bit and put something fun to help recharge you and give you some joy in your life before you do all the to-do list stuff, then go ahead and drop that fun thing in the comments. I'd love to hear what everyone comes up with. So that brings us perfectly into our next tip, which is trim down your to-do list. If you're anything like me, you've got post-it notes everywhere. I feel like I'm the president of the to-do list club, and I'm trying to step down from that role and move toward a different situation where I have a shorter to-do list. I know that you might be sitting there screaming at me going like, "No, I have to do all of these things." But trust me, you can still do all of the things. But what happens is when you have so much on your plate and your to-do list is so long, instead of being an efficient way to keep track of things and help motivate you to get them done by like checking off all of those boxes, our brain gets overwhelmed when we look at it and it ends up not helping. So instead of being a helpful tool, it just ends up triggering your brain to shut down and be like, yep, I don't have energy for that. I'm going to go eat some ice cream instead. So what can happen then is our to-do list keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And then a few months go by and you haven't gotten any of it done. Or sometimes you get some of it done, but you never end up catching up. So the best solution to that is trimming down the to-do list. And I'd love for you to take a second and think about how you can do this. So let's think about what you have planned for tomorrow. And if you have a piece of paper next to you, go ahead and even write it out, like all of the different things that you have planned literally for tomorrow or for the weekend. Now, what I'd like to challenge you to do is to cut it down to 3 things. Okay. So once you've trimmed that list down to 3 things, go ahead and share what 3 things you've picked in the chat. And then I'd like you to try and stick to that tomorrow. And I'd love to hear how it goes. So for me, my 3 things for tomorrow, I don't work on Fridays. And at the time of recording this, tomorrow's Friday. So my 3 things tomorrow are taking care of my toddler, going grocery shopping, and going for a walk. So go ahead and pick what your 3 things are. They can be big things or teeny tiny things, and put them in the chat. Now, this last piece of advice is a little bit more conceptual, but it's one of the more important things that I do to keep my energy levels high. So now that you know what to do with your to-do list and how to structure your day to reduce your fatigue a bit and improve your energy, the next thing that you can do is really focusing on celebrating your successes. What can happen to a lot of us who are like high achieving perfectionists, which I think fits like every single person who goes into healthcare, what ends up happening is we look at our list, like our unfinished to-do list, or all of the mountain of things that we have in front of us, and feel frustrated and overwhelmed because there's so much left to do. But the truth is, there's always a ton of stuff left to do. Like, you're never going to finish. You're never going to climb up and over the entire mountain because, like, the mountain's always growing and changing. So instead of looking forward at this massive mountain of like endless stuff to do, whether it's at work or at home or in your life or with family, what I'd love for you to do is celebrate the 3 things that you accomplished on your checklist because it's amazing that you got them done. And although it's perfectly amazing to like think about the future and plan about the future, go ahead and live in the now and just celebrate that you unloaded the dishwasher, went out for drinks with your friends, and worked today. That's amazing. And that is enough. No matter what you did is enough. And you don't need to do more or beat yourself up about it because you didn't do enough. I promise you that you did.
Mark is doing a great job here. He said trim the list, and you said trim the list, and he said celebrate success, and you said celebrate success. So he says that it feels like you know me.
Yay! Yay! Awesome. I love that. I love that so, so much. Thank you for telling me that, Emma. So, I'm really curious now. I can't wait to hear what Mark says about this too. What is something that you did today that's worth celebrating? I can't wait to hear it. Every single person here has something they did today worth celebrating. So, while you guys are coming up with it, I'll share mine. My thing worth celebrating today is I took time over lunch to go and sit outside in the sun because I find that I don't get enough sunshine during the workday. So I decided that that's how I was going to spend my lunch instead of working over lunch. And that is my win for today. So Now that you've heard my 3 tips for boosting your energy, I'd like to hear from you guys. Which tip do you see trying out first? Like, what is something that's super easy to grab and to implement in the here and the now?
I think the easiest thing is trim the list. I think, and a number of business mentors, talk about this too, is the fact that you almost should have maybe several lists. You have your daily list, and then you have like a weekly list, and then you have a monthly list, and maybe you have a quarterly or a yearly list. And that way you can really see, what tasks mean the most and try to focus on those each day, and then just slowly chip away. And having those multiple lists can sometimes help because you maybe don't want to forget certain things. You still have it on the list, but it's like a different list where, oh, if I have time, I can maybe look at the weekly or the monthly list.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly, exactly. That is a good comment too. Yeah, because it's not like our brains can be so full of information um, from just or keeping our lives organized and work, whatever that is. Yeah, that you want to keep track of those things in a place, totally. So yeah, having a good system for keeping that organized and then keeping your like day-to-day to-do list trimmed is yeah. Um,
Mark says he wants to pick 3 things and do them.
yeah, yeah. I'm curious to see how that goes for you, Mark, because I think it's going to change your life. I will say I've made all of these changes in my life and picking 3 things actually helps me get way more things done. Um, so it's not like you're only allowed to pick 3, like you can do 300, but like holy cow, I feel really good when I get my 3 done and that just gives me the boost of energy I need to like just freight train through the rest of my list when I'm in the mood for it. I'm not always. Sometimes I go celebrate and then just get caught up in the celebration.
He says 100%.
Perfect. So, it sounds like Mark's got his plan. If you're listening to the replay, know that it can be super tempting to like go into super perfectionist mode and be like, I'm going to do all of this and I'm going to start right now. I'm going to do all of this and like, I'm going to rock it. And I'm 100% sure that you can do all of it and rock it. But I would encourage you to like do one thing at a time so that you can like have success at it and implement it gradually so then it becomes a habit and sticks. So let these things simmer, figure out what you'd like to do, and then go ahead and move forward with it. Something else that I'd like to point out is once you try these things, know that I have like simplified the information. And even though it sounds easy to implement, like sometimes um, using these strategies can be like easier said than done. And it's sort of like setting a New Year's resolution where you're going to go to the gym and you go like 4 days a week, 5 days a week for the first few weeks of January. And then all of a sudden it's February and you're like, wait, why am I still paying for this new expensive gym? I'm not going here enough to make it worth it. So if that sounds like you and you're like all gung ho, but you kind of lose steam, know that support is usually super helpful and support is really available for this as well. So there can be a lot of bumps in the road and different individual circumstances to navigate. So if you are looking for support in that, go ahead and stick around until the end and we can talk about what that can look like. So, like some examples of how people have used these strategies and really overhauled their life are like my client Amanda, who was struggling with really severe fatigue, dizziness, and then frequent flares of her fatigue. When she started working with me, she wasn't even able to stand in the shower. Like she was so exhausted and felt like she was going to faint that she was contemplating having to buy a shower chair, even though she was in her 20s. So She tried doing workout classes and at-home cardio programs, strength training routine. She tried seeing like all the specialists, and she really thought she had tried it all over 2 years. And then her and I started working together, and she was able to make a shift. So now she can easily like take a normal shower in the morning, get herself ready for the day, do a whole work shift standing on her feet, and then have energy to go out for drinks with coworkers after work. Another really great success story that happened recently was my client Leah, who initially was sending herself into really severe fatigue flares. Um, and what would happen was when she would try to exercise at all, she would get so fatigued that she would end up missing work for a couple of days or sometimes even a week or two. What she tried to do was pace herself and like figure out her own strategies, but she never quite knew like when to stop and rest until it was too late. She started working with me and we got a really clear plan in place, and she was able to work up to going on 4-mile walks, or adding in some jogging and then feeling totally fine to go to work all week and hang out with friends after work. So know that if you're like struggling with debilitating fatigue and it's limiting your ability to work or move your body or do fun things you enjoy, that my clients, Amanda and Leah, aren't these like special magical unicorns. They're really magical people, but they don't have anything that all of you here don't have to. They've been where you are, and I want you to know that you can get to where they are now. If you're feeling kind of down in the dumps, wondering if you can climb yourself out of this fatigue hole. So you might be thinking, like, awesome, this information is super valuable, but like, I need more of it. Like, this isn't enough to move me forward to get me from where I am now to where I want to be. And I totally get that. Makes perfect sense. So, what I'd love to invite you to do is if you'd like to chat, I'd love to invite you to one of my fatigue to free breakthrough sessions. And what we do during that, it's a complimentary session that we can spend one on one, talking over where you are right now. Where it is that you'd like to get to? What kind of roadblocks are getting in the way? And then we can lay out the roadmap of a really clear plan that can help get you from feeling super exhausted all the time after work or having to miss work because you're tired, to living a life that you love, enjoying your job, whatever that is, and having the energy to be spontaneous and go out and do whatever you want after work. So the sessions take place virtually. Then you don't have to travel to Minnesota to come and meet with me. You don't have to like get a babysitter, sit in traffic, get on an airplane, or rearrange your whole schedule to make it work. So normally I do charge for the sessions, but for this group, I'd love to give those away for free because I love helping healthcare workers. I'm a like former full-time physical therapist, and so I'd love to offer the breakthrough sessions for free today. So what I've done is I've set aside 10 spots for people who are super committed to changing the fatigue and moving forward with their life. So if you feel like you're really committed to making a change and you want to chat, then go ahead and schedule a call with me. What I'll do is I'll drop a link to my scheduler in the comments. Okay, so I just dropped that link. So if you're watching live or you're watching the replay within about a 2-week time frame from when this is playing, then you'll be able to access that link. If you're watching this like on YouTube a while later, then I'll drop my contact information in later, and you can feel free to reach out to me and let me know that you'd like some help then. But this offer for the complimentary session is valid through August 23rd. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and sign up soon. If you have signed up, please drop done in the comments. I'd love to celebrate you, celebrate taking a step forward, and then use that to inspire other people too who might feel like, oh, am I going to do this? Should I do this? Is anyone else doing this? Like, yeah, go for it. You've got Nothing to lose. So if you're excited about the strategies today and you want to keep the momentum going, then go ahead and grab your spot. Well, at this point, I'd love to thank you all so much for joining me here today. Were there any other comments or questions that came through, Emma?
No, that was it. Just Mark seems really excited, and we enjoy having you on this presentation. Thank you for those tips on, helping not only fatigue, but I'm sure this can apply to a lot of different circumstances that people are feeling, such as burnout too. So we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone, and we will see you in our next alternative healthcare career video training. Bye-bye.